So real-time marketing is probably one of the biggest buzzwords bandied about over the last couple of years. And I think it means different things for different people and different agencies, whether that's specific digital agencies who focus on what that means from a digital aspect and the data they can crawl from there, whether that's the likes of social networks who think that is only talking to people in that space and time. And what we do in the area of real-time marketing, and again, it's a very much bandied word and not one that we kind of speak to very often, because I think it's just good marketing, in essence, is how I see real-time marketing. But what we do internally is we fuse what consumers are actually doing through their behaviours online and through their transactions with a brand, take that and then apply that to our advertising communications on behalf of our clients. So if someone's actually looking for a red car on an Auto Trader website and it's a specific brand, next time they're exposed to a message, we make sure that it's a preference that they might like, of a model they might like, and take them on a slightly more specific journey and route because it's more relevant for that individual. So in essence, what we're trying to do is move more from talking generically to a bunch of people who fall conveniently into a bracket of ABC1 adults or 1634s, understand what that particular ABC1 adult in the singular or the 16 to 34 person in the singular does and thinks about what they do. So we get less and less generic and more specific, if you like. And you know, the kind of the adage of old was claimed versus actual, in the same way that people claim that they might go to the gym 3 times a week, but they actually kind of visit once every blue moon. And it's understanding those dynamics and then being able to replay that on behalf of the brands back to the consumers in a more relevant way.
So tell us about the kind of media that's served up in real time, who creates that and where that is bought and where is it placed. And so tell us sort of where that looks like, what it looks like and where it plays.
So most of our brands, we do that through digital media, and we will take the data that we're able to crawl and understand and relay that back through the advertising channels that the client might use or that we might recommend that they use. But for certain brands, we've actually gone a step further too. So we're interacting with their owned asset. So when someone goes to the client's actual site where they might transact, what they see is tailored based on what they've actually done before. So we're using data management platforms, working with data management specialists to be able to take all that first-party data of what they're doing on the site, look at their ID and their behaviours, cross-reference that with third-party data to really enhance the whole experience for that consumer. So it's not just a message we're pushing out; it's an actual experience that they're delivering, and that's one of the ways that we're doing it. There's a really classic example of how Target used or tried to use, in inverted commas, real-time data a few years ago. They obviously have user IDs from people who transact within the store, and they noticed that certain purchases were made by ladies as they reach a certain stage of their pregnancy, and so they started direct mailing people special offers, which isn't necessarily real time, but it's using that data to give them a message in more real time in their consumer journey. And they actually mailed a teenage girl because she was buying certain products and was on her I think she was in her sort of first trimester of pregnancy, and obviously the first person to over that mailing was her dad, who absolutely went crazy about the fact that how dare they kind of allude to the fact that his daughter might be pregnant, and actually she was. So I think there's a little bit of data sensitivity about how people use it and making sure that they're a bit more savvy about what they do. So I think in how they can use it, the kind of gamut is vast. So we mentioned the kind of Twitter feed and people taking some of those scrapes and using that through their above-the-line communications in non-digital aspects. One of the things we did here within the group for Bulmers was using people's engagements with the brand from a Twitter aspect, so where they engage with us, so start your weekend with hashtag, and we used that and deployed that through our out-of-home just by taking that data. So it made it a bit more personalised, make it a bit more fun, a bit more engaging, rather than just us kind of talking at consumers. We were using what consumers were saying and understanding a bit more about their passions and interests and what they actually do.
So when you say real time, does that mean of the moment things being served in real time, or is it sort of just meaning that you can move up the sort of the time frame of ad decisioning? What does that really mean?
I think it's a combination of the two, if I'm honest. I mean, the real definition, the real science behind the real-time marketing is the data. And so another much used buzzword around big data that has been bandied about for far too long, which is kind of causing me headaches for many months. And I don't think we should get too hung up on big data as much as good data. So if that good data means that you can be more real time without necessarily being completely in the moment, then it is more relevant for that consumer, and it's a great reflection of the brand's understanding of what that consumer is doing at that time. So the Target example was real time to within, I don't know, a week or so, by being able to get that data from the customer, put that into market and produce something for them. Some of the stuff that we've done with Cineworld or Travelodge or Honda, where based on what that consumer is doing at that moment in that time, we can then completely change the look and feel of what they're seeing. So we work, we're very fortunate to have in-house, which I think is quite unique to a big agency, is a creative team who are called DOT, and that's short for Dynamic Optimization Technology, and they in essence produce the framework and the ads from which the product of that, or the output of that, is the consumer's behaviour and experiences. So it doesn't really get more real time than that, if you like, because based on what they're actually seeing and what they're actually doing and how they're engaging, we tweak that whole message. So I think there's a gamut there, I think there's a range. You can be completely or as real time as possible through doing that, and through the way that we buy our media through our programmatic. So it means that within a blink of an eye, what you've done has changed the journey that you're on, versus the kind of more longer tail direct mail or catalogue stuff that people do based on consumers' engagement patterns. And that's good data. It's not big data, because big data gets scary and people think that you need a kind of a nerd with a propeller hat in a corner. But actually just making really good use of your data can change completely how a consumer sees and interacts with you.
How do you guys, if you do, use video in this real-time scenario?
I think you're right. I think there are complications with real-time video. I think where we like to see ourselves evolving on that journey is through the data that we can derive from what our consumers and brands do. I think the essence is also in understanding the moment that the consumer is in. So why video? What role does the video have to play in that journey, and how? So I think it differs by brand and different media outlets that people kind of source that video content from. So is it snackable? Is it long form? What are the different consumer behaviours and patterns during that process? So they're not seeing something that is completely off script with what they're actually doing and complements their experience. And so within my role as performance lead at Starcom, certainly the not having the performance focus, or kind of, you know, the ROI generating focus of what's going to happen on those campaigns, that's the be all and end all of what we do. That said, it can only help a brand that you're talking to consumers in the right language, and you're not just kind of shouting at many, you're talking to the few that are engaged and relevant before you. And I don't think it's a case of losing sight of the mass, because you always need your volume, but just being sensible about how you balance that. And that's only going to help the brand experience. So whilst with the clients I've mentioned that we do that real-time skew with, the engagement rates and the response rates, the ROIs of those campaigns far outperform the static traditional channels that we might use. And it's also enhancing the brand's, the perception of the brand on those consumers, because it's a more tailored approach, it's a more dynamic approach, it's more relevant to the experiences that they're going through.
How do you see the evolution of real-time marketing as part of a media spend?
So it's a good question. It's a tricky one to answer to an extent. So I think rather than looking at it as a spend function, just because of the way that we can buy programmatically means that we can buy certain things at a lower rate than if we bought direct, or just because the evolution of the market is heading in a certain direction. I think if we look at it in terms of focus of the business or a client's time and briefing, so if we look upstairs where the digital performance guys sit, for example, and where the dot function is, that function is newish to the agency, but it's already got 3 people who essentially just make the creative for the real-time digital stuff. It's got then 6 or 7 people who then take that and put that into plan, but that team is growing, so there's already kind of like, you know, a headcount growth within that, because the demand is there from the clients, because they're seeing the growth through the business that they're doing, and we're able then to grow the teams because of that. So I think it's really hard to put a function of spend on that, but I think it's much more realistic to kind of go, the team has grown and is continuing to grow, so it will grow at least 3 or 4 people this year, it will go again next year. We're doing more and more work with European-based or kind of clients who we can work with from here, but across the various markets that we're in. So we work with Europe Cosse in various European markets. We're doing work with an insurance company for our Starcom Australia office. but the actual output of that is coming from here. So it's just a case of how quickly clients see the benefit of what they do, and then us being able to invest behind that.